size though, because this would definitely give me a yeast infection.
I hate going to the gym and I can't stand being set up.
It feels like I just had a one-night stand and I'm like, where's his bed sheet?
I don't think asking somebody if they're, I don't think it is inherently a rude question, but it does, for me, get exhausting to have to constantly like explain the concept of like, I can be 33 and just be a short individual. It's like crazy that people can't put those two things together.
Oh, meaning that they think you're younger, they think you're a child?
All the time.
So,
And that also I think is more, I just had to correct like coworkers about this because it got brought up and it was like, we should do a promotion at the bounce house with this bounce house company. I'm not making this up. They said we should have Brittany do it.
Because you're a Lilliputian? Because you're a little... Do they make you dress up as a leprechaun for St. Patrick's Day?
They asked and I said, fuck off, is what I said.
But by the way, I find that very flattering, though, because people think I'm younger than I am because I am not of stature in terms of height.
And as I just turned 33, and I know that is young in the grand scheme, but it's giving me a slight existential quip, or I know.
At 33, you're having a midlife crisis?
I'm having my Jesus year, and I'm like, just take me out. That's it. Yeah, that's it. But it's, so I guess it's like I'm embracing that now, but yeah, they said we should do a promotion with this bounce house company, and I knew where they were going, and I was like, don't fucking do it in my head.
Just infantilizing you.
Literally. Yeah. And then another executive goes, oh, my daughter loves them. And they were like, we should have Brittany. And I said, I'm like, I'm not posing near a bounce house.
Is it not flattering?
That particular example was not.
No, that was a bad example.
Yeah.
But I mean, in general, the idea that people think that you are younger than you are, isn't that nice?
I guess. I guess so. And especially as a woman, since there's so much stigma and judgment around age and aging and beauty.
You're like Michael J. Fox, you could still play high school at this age.
Yeah. My casting director loves it. And everybody at Pornhub loves it as well, too. I'm getting great work over there. They're out like, actually, if people learn you're 33, they won't be into it.
I was going to say, though, you'll be offended when your agent starts sending you out for the young mom. when that... You'll be just like, oh, I crossed that threshold, huh? I can't pull off like high school
or
like
anything.
I'm now young mom.
You've lived some life.
You know,
you've lived some life. Yeah,
I don't know. Enjoy it while you have it.
I guess,
right?
I guess. I mean, I've been told that my whole life. And they're like, you're going to be grateful for it later on. And like I said, I'm seeing a semblance of it now. Yeah. But I think it's, to your point, the word infantilizing is what it was. I was like, I know I look young. I'm a comedian. I can poke fun at my own height. I know I'm a petite person. But I was like, bounce house. And then they tried to sell me on it by going, it's like one of the state of Florida's largest bounce houses. And I'm like, I don't care if it fucking connects to Bluetooth. I don't care. I'm not standing in it.
You're offended by people thinking that you're a child, but yet you'll wear that shirt and those shoes. So I mean, what are you trying to say?
This is not giving you Weekend at Bernie's Halloween costume.
No, it is. But I mean, a little bit of like Jimmy Buffett tailgate out in front of Carl Sky Amphitheater parking lot. That's
a very adult thing to do, Billy. That's not a very child thing to do.
No, I'm saying I guess like young Florida mom. That's kind of vibes.
Young mom, it's coming. I'm going to call my agent today and be like, Billy Corben thinks I'm perfect.
For young mom. Stop sending me out for the bounce house commercials.
Please stop sending me out for babysitter who fucks the dad when mom's not home. I am the young mom who runs the household.
I loved you in that, though. I did. I gave a thumbs up on the Pornhub machine.
You're like, how about I pay you a little bit less and I'll just take care of you another way.
I did. I tip jarred you all my Miami coin for that one.
So that's why it's tanking. Do you know, on the previous, we just recorded with my friend Carmen and she reminded me that I dabbled in Bitcoin. Dabbled.
During the pandemic or?
Shortly post-pandemic.
Okay.
Well, no pandemic, no problem in Florida. So.
Well, you were late to the. Was it Bitcoin or like shitcoin?
It was one of those. What are the social tokens? You know, those they're not quite Bitcoin or Ethereum, and you won't lose your whole family. I had a friend who, to be fair,
that's my skeptical face.
That's
what the fuck did you buy, Brittany?
I made my own coin, and it was a creator coin. And I'm deeply embarrassed that I ever made that decision.
And that's why we're now sitting on inflatable couches.
Exactly, because this is the value of it.
This is how the story ends.
They cost 2 Brave coin. That's it. That's what I called it.
It was called Brave Coin?
I did.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I feel like Billy's gonna walk out. He's like, you lost all of my credibility.
Oh my God. No, you lost all credibility long before that, but that's
true.
No, that happened. Brave Coin.
Yeah, well, it's a friend of mine who, and I see that now, hindsight's 2020. She was always the friend who, she's very smart, very creative, but she's always cutting edge and trying new things. And like, it's the kind of thing where you go along with it because you're like, she could be brilliant and onto something.
Cutting edge, you started a shitcoin in 2023. Like, how is that cutting edge? I don't understand.
It's not. I actually feel like a really bad boomer. I feel like, especially in this, I do.
Yes.
Yeah. So she said, no, it's a social token and people can own a part of your brand or artistry so you can gift it to your friends. And it obviously won't have a lot of value at first, at least depending on how many people. I mean, I just gifted a bunch to loyal fans and friends. And then the idea was that token would create a community around my comedy and artistry, and then that would grow the value of it, and then hopefully someday it would be an actual currency. And I don't know why I agreed to it. I was dehydrated, I think.
You need some coconut water.
I think so. I texted her and I said, Tam, and she said, what? I go, I'm down to try this. I don't know how it's going to go. I said, all I need to know is when I launch this coin, will my parents in my house disappear or something? Or are the lights going to go out? Or like, she was, no. I said, are you sure? So yeah, I guess
she said no, and you still did it anyway.
Yeah, I haven't seen them since 2023. So yeah, I did dabble in Brave Coin, but it's in
Brave Coin.
And she reminded me of that. And that was my big yikes moment on the previous episode. So yeah, she said, she goes, I own you. I said, what do you mean? I was like, that's very Renaissance era, the very, yeah.
Is it, I don't know if this is even worse than asking how tall are you, how much do you weigh, but how much is Brave Coin worth right now?
Guys, Google it.
Is this, and is it worth more or less than Miami Coin?
Let me put it in Miami terms as well too. If you tried to use Brave Coin to buy something on my OnlyFans, I think it would be worth one single pubic hair. That's how much you could get. That's all you could get. One single pubic hair.
I was going to make a joke about the Gillette you just offered me in reference to that, but I'm not going. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go down there.
Let's put it this way: that small travel size can of Gillette that I tried to get Billy to use as hair product, you would need.
It worked though.
It looks great.
Thank you.
It only vaguely looks like semen. It looks great. Only vaguely. If you. We up, baby. We up.
I'm all in. I'm all in. Absolutely.
I used to say Bitcoin has that energy of, I had a bit about this where it's because people were talking all about this cryptocurrency. You couldn't see it in this metaverse and all of these different things. And I said, whether it's right or wrong or real or not, I said, it has the energy of that kid you went to school with who brags about his really hot girlfriend. And you say, when are we going to meet her? And he's like, she goes to a different school. Like she never actually materializes.
But I think there was also a difference between, with all due respect.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Brave Coin.
Yeah.
Or that's why I asked, like, are you talking about Bitcoin or shitcoin? Not that Bitcoin is real in that it's sort of tangible, but there appears to be a market for it. And I'm sorry, it's not just that there's a market for it, it's that there is a use for it. Like you can actually trade it for something other than just, oh look, it's making magical money and it's not just magical beans like Miami Coin was. Like there's all these coins that are just, there's no case study for like use. Like you can't use it to pay for anything or to trade for anything other than just more of these magic beans. And more. That's the problem is that you have to be able to, if it's going to be a currency,
right?
You have to be able to use it for something. Otherwise, it's just an unregistered security.
Yeah,
and
you're just passing things around for your own amusement, essentially.
Well, theoretically for your own profit, also, but that's rarely the case in these. With
especially now, right?
Especially now, you're a little late to the game, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, I think if you trade Brave Coin with people, what is it again? 1/10,000th of a cent, or is it worse? I hope it's worse. Well, exactly.
100,000. We still up.
We still. Oh,
We still.
what I'm hearing is more zeros. That's what I'm hearing.
They are just, those zeros are immediately following the decimal point, but they're definitely more. There's definitely more zeros.
Sean
there.
goes, I've never seen a penny sliced that many ways. I'm like, you could tell he's from Broward. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure if you have Brave coin and you trade it with somebody, you just get chlamydia. I'm pretty sure you get an STD. And again,
Chlamydia
we up.
coin. Not a bad.
It's one of the
idea
curable
either.
ones. I say the worst STD is depression. That's what I think. If you think you're not getting that from your spouse or the person seeing you naked, think again. That's what I say.
Yeah, now I know how you were feeling when you woke up on these inflatable fucking couches this
I
morning.
lost my virginity on this.
this morning. God.
I actually don't reside anywhere. I would love to hear more about your perception of Bitcoin and
Pass.
Okay.
I mean, I think I've spoken my
Your
piece
piece about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think the problem is you had a market flooded with con men and con women, who really, I think, I don't want to say destroyed the reputation, but went a long way toward, I think, increasing the skepticism surrounding something that was already worthy of skepticism, because the great, I mean, even I think that the top use for most cryptocurrencies are illicit transactions and money laundering. So it already had that stigma. And then when you had all this during the pandemic, when people were bored and some people had a little extra money kind of sitting around, they were glued to their computers and they're like, let me walk into this new casino and see what I can do. A lot of people made some terrible mistakes and decisions.
Yeah, and people already lose their families at a casino, let alone when it's that accessible.
Yeah. No, and I mean, at least casinos are regulated, so your losses are all factored into the grand scheme there. Yeah. Here it was just like an unregulated casino with all of this garbage product that were mostly pump and dump schemes. I mean, when the most legit people in the crypto marketplace are saying, well, yes, we know that 99% of these products are fraudulent. It's like, well, we're off to a really bad start if you're going to defend the 1% of legitimate products in the marketplace. So that dilution, I think, really set back any potential that Bitcoin and Ethereum and the legitimate cryptocurrencies had. And I mean, they're sort of slowly climbing back up in value, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's any utility.
Or
that's
they're
the biggest
sustainable.
Problem. Well, yeah, that they're sustainable or there's any utility. That's the point. What do you use this? If it's a currency, what do you use it for?
Right, and when is it going to be adopted, and how is that going to work?
What can you pay?
Yeah.
When you have the mayor of a city promoting a shitcoin, which is nothing more than a pump and dump scheme, like allegedly, like Miami Coin was, and you're like, oh, Miami's going to have a coin. It's like, great. Can I pay a parking ticket with it? Can I pay my property taxes with it?
Can I buy food?
Can I pay?
Anything?
What can I transact with my government? Then with it, if you're going to have, say, promote this coin, it's like, no, you can't do any of that. And it's like, so this is a product in search of a use. It's like, that's ass backwards. The whole point of a real invention or product or even commodity is like, this is of use. People need this.
There's a demand for it. Right. It's providing a solution.
Well, right. And so now I'm going to introduce, it's like, no, we have a product. And someday, if you start investing in it and trading it and paying for it, maybe someday we'll be able to use it for something. It's like, whoa. This is totally backwards.
And like, was there a demand for another currency? Was there a demand for something like this at all? Like,
short answer, no.
No.
In Spanish, no.
I say that all the time.
Yeah, I'm going to translate.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everybody in the audience can understand that I mean no.
No. Right.
Yeah.
Right. I find it interesting too, because like I emceed Bitcoin Festival, and it was fun. It was a banger of a line.
What did they pay you in? Bounce house gift cards.
Exactly. Bravecoin, actually. Bravecoin. Yes. In order to get on the bounce house, you have to pay in Bravecoin, and it's 1,000 Bravecoin. So you literally are
Oh my
taking.
God, that is how many fractions of a penny is that?
Sean, hit the math. Look, did you see the steam coming out of Sean's ears?
Yeah,
He's
he's like, I got my iAbacus app on my phone here. I'm gonna try to figure
He's
this
like,
out.
I'm overheating. It's you took the words right out of my mouth. So that's I talk about that on stage too. I did Bitcoin Festival. I had no interest in it, but I've now have a bank of material about the metaverse and Bitcoin and crypto. Because
What year did you do Bitcoin Fest?
2022. It was the Sound Money Festival, and it was in the Miami Beach Convention Center. And they had a banger comedy lineup, like Donnell Rawlings, Michael Rappaport, great lineup. And I was the MC. Ricky Cruz was the other local opener, and it was a good show.
Great.
But they paid me in US dollars, sent in a check via US mail. And I was like, that to me was the biggest hypocrisy. I was like, do I get any coin? Is anybody going to donate? And they're like, no, your check will arrive in 2 weeks. I was like, check?
What was? Yeah, it's like let me tell you what we're gonna do with this. We're gonna take this coin.
Yeah.
And we're going to transfer it into US dollars. And then we're going to take those US dollars and buy this other coin. It's like, wait a second.
It's like, do you have Venmo?
Yeah. What are we do? What are we like? This all just sounds like money laundering is what it sounds like. It's like, why can't we just transact in something that everybody kind of universally like? It's like, well, what do I need? It's like, what you do is you take your US dollars and then you convert them into this other thing and then you can launder money. It's like, well, couldn't I just do that with the cash that I had in the first place?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and you know what's funny? If you try to explain the trans community to these same people, they're like, I don't understand. And you're like, really?
This is very complicated.
Very complicated. You're like, well, you take one thing and you transition it into something else. And we're just,
that's it.
And you guys think it has the same value.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
It's a human being. And that's exactly what my process was on Coinbase too. When I went to go like cash out, when I was like, this is ridiculous. Like I didn't even. I'm actually upset that Sean was still able to pull it up on a Google search about me because.
I'd be pretty upset about it too if I were you.
I would rather a sex tape leak than that. And
leak. Quote, big air quotes. I'm getting like carpal tunnel air quotes. I'm getting right now.
It's like, Brittany, you're airdropping it to people.
In a Starbucks.
In a Raising Cane's.
This is not a leak. Raising Cane's is funnier. That was funnier. Just to,
That's who I want to have it, honestly. That's the demo. Starbucks is too classy.
No, yeah, there's no future OnlyFans subscribers in a Starbucks for you.
No, or if there are, you don't
much more
want
likely to Raising Cane's or a Chuck E. Cheese for that matter.
That's it, because listen, it's free to subscribe. So
yes. Brittany's ball pit, ladies and gentlemen.
That's genius.
What, Brittany's
ball pit? That's genius, and it's just actually a video of me in the ball pit at the bounce house, just erotically playing.
Do they still do ball pits? I think like Chuck E. Cheese discontinued the ball pit.
I hope so, because I think that's where the second wave of measles originated.
Or chlamydia.
Or both, yeah.
Chuck E. Chlamydia over there.
Chuck E. Cheese. So when I tried to cash out, I guess, when I was like, this is absurd about this whole Brave coin, I was like, this isn't anything and nobody's gonna. It was so hard for people to even like claim the free coin that I could give them. And the whole process was so convoluted, and it was like, download this to transfer to that to convert to this, all for me to get like $500, and that was it.
And you realize the absurdity of it on the back end of the thing.
Yeah,
like going into it, it didn't strike it. So I was at one of the Bitcoin weeks, whenever the conference was, but this was before, because I think 2022 is about the time where it hit the skids.
Yes.
That was the last hurrah. Everybody was there pumping it while they were literally dumping it at the same time. There were people on stage who were in the process of liquidating their stake in Bitcoin while they were telling everybody to buy more in order to buttress the value of the shit that
those
they
people
were
have
dumping.
A good moral compass.
Yeah, absolutely, because Miami.
Right.
And so that's why they came here.
Right.
They didn't come here because their moral compass guided them to South Florida, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
It was the exact opposite. They came here and there's like a magnetic field where their moral compass started spinning and they're like, I found the spot here. I found the spot.
You bring the concept of Bitcoin to any other part of the United States, people will have questions. You bring it to Miami, they're like, oh yeah, free money that I can't see. Hello.
Yes. Absolutely. I've hit the chlamydia code right here. This
exactly.
is it. And so I went to probably 21 or whatever the first Bitcoin like
Shindig.
week happened in South Florida. After
a few of
like
them.
Mayor Ponzi Potalita put the for sale sign out in front of City Hall, and he's like, whatever like this sort of twisted version of the Statue of Liberty is like, it's like, bring us your Ponzi's, your schemes, your scams, your grifters, bienvenidos, you know.
It's an open call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's like this is what we want here. It's like, yeah, it's Miami. We subsist, you know, from hustle to hustle, boom and bust cycle. So like this was clearly just like the latest bubble that we were blowing up,
Yeah.
which incidentally has left behind like lasting damage to this economy and certainly this housing market. So it's funny, but it's not fucking funny, you
Yeah.
know, for those of us who have to like live
Sustain
here,
and live
right,
here.
who can't just like blow in and out of town, who aren't just buying our third or fourth home or condo or laundering money from, you know, Latin America or you know, some Venezuelan oil money or whatever.
Those of us who don't live on Fisher Island and
or in some beautiful sunny isles or Hillendale, you see. So like it's just like it's a little annoying, obviously, but trying to embrace the humor of this trend in Miami. I was sitting with these guys who were in the NFT business.
Okay.
Okay, let's start there. They're in the NFT business, whatever that means.
No fucking idea what a token is.
I'm sitting there with these guys. We have a mutual friend who's like, oh, you should talk to, Billy's a content creator. You should talk to these guys about it. So I'm just like, okay, I you know, talk to me like I'm 5 because when it comes to this, I am.
Yeah, like explain it to me.
Tell me what this is. Like, I'm in. Like not that I'm in, but I'm wide open to whatever this is that you're doing. And if this is an opportunity for me as a content creator to expand my market or fan base, whatever, sell me.
I approached it with the same curiosity because I was like, I understand it exists and I understand it's trending and it's happening. I'd like to. What is it?
Yeah.
Like,
People are spending a ton of money in it. And I'm just like, I love it. Like, talk to. I was left more confused than I was at the start of the conversation. Yeah. And I'm thinking like, well, these are the guys that are supposed to be explaining, like telling
these are the
me,
ambassadors.
Right, bring me in. And then they were giving me examples of what other filmmakers and content creators were doing in the space, but I still didn't understand it. And more importantly for me, as a documentarian and a nonfiction storyteller, where we're always trying to pursue, you know, truth and speak truth to power and I was like, it felt to me like, am I trying to dupe an end user? Like it felt to me like there was a level of almost inherent, I don't want to say dishonesty, but let's call it like schemery in this, where I was like, I'm not in this market just like to make money and to fool people into giving me money or into inflated valuations on like.
But it seems like you guys are.
Yeah, but there wasn't any explanation like beyond that in terms of like, I'm like, was there value to me in the potential of being able to sell somebody something? I'm like, yeah, but what am I
selling?
What am I selling them?
Yeah.
And they didn't seem to have a real kosher answer for me on that.
Whenever you asked about the future implications of something like this, there also either A, wasn't an answer, or B, there wasn't even like they couldn't even level with you about how this could have a negative implication. Like normally with any kind of concept, new business, new trend, if there's legitimacy to it, right, you can at least tell somebody.
Fucking explain it.
Fucking explain it, A,
right.
and B, you see the pros and the cons and how it could benefit and what the
setbacks are.
But also
they're in the business of creating and marketing NFTs. I'm like, tell me how I can get involved.
Yeah.
And to say I was not convinced is
an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, when Miami Coin launched, and I started the Because Miami podcast with Dan Lebitard at Meadowlark Media, I started talking about this shitcoin. I'm like, this is a scheme. I'm like, it's easy to know it's a scheme also because as soon as like Mayor Francis Suarez starts talking about it, you need to be immediately
you gotta get out.
skeptical.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, wait,
that guy's
time out.
such a fucking piece of shit.
I mean, listen, he's a con man. His hair is literally like slicked back with snake oil, which I wish you had some other than Gillette.
Well, he was actually here earlier today and used all of it.
That's it.
Exactly.
You know, when you walk into a CVS and like all the hair product is cleared out, you're like, Francis Suarez must have just
you walk into the Navarro,
it's all gone. God damn it.
Yeah.
So, I start calling out this. I'm like, what is this? This is ridiculous. And it was like peak Miami.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, Miami is going to have its own shitcoin now? Like all of the Pied Piper of schemers and scammers at Roscoe Bros that came flooding into town, the tech bros, who basically left California and Illinois because they couldn't buy the government they wanted there, and they saw the for sale sign down here.
So we need to go somewhere dumb where people will buy our shit.
Well, more importantly, where we can buy the government we want.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, Chicago wasn't fucking corrupt enough. So Miami it is.
Yeah.
And that's why, I always say, like, but LA is where you go when you want to be somebody. New York is where you go when you are somebody. And Miami is where you go when you want to be somebody else. Always been a sunny place for shady people. It always will be, with that transient population and lack of institutional memory that allows these kind of entrenched, dynastic, political crime families to just come in and thrive. Multi-generational, it's Game of Thrones in paradise with iguanas and gators instead of dragons. And then everybody has like their fiefdoms and their hustles, and they are just they become culturally systemic. And so long story even longer, I'm shit talking this shit coin because shit coins deserve to be shit talked.
Yeah.
And finally, we get a guy who is, I don't know what, I want to call him a co-founder of Bitcoin, but they don't refer to themselves that way. They're like, oh, no, I'm part of the Miami Coin community, or I'm part of the whatever. It's like, and so, but he very clearly was a spokesperson, if you will, for Miami Coin.
Yeah.
And so I said, will you come on the podcast to explain it to me?
Yeah.
If I'm wrongheaded about this, and I can accept that I might be. And he said yes, to his credit. And I thought that was awesome. Most people tell me, it's like your podcast. You ask them to be on it, and they say no.
Yeah,
like
right.
most people, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So
and I'm like, when we get better couches, I'll... And then El Dorado, I'm available for a sponsorship.
City Furniture.
Exactly.
So I... yes, instead of whatever, like I was trying to think of like a pool float company. What is a good like pool, like whatever this
Big Lots? I don't.
Yes, brought to you by Big Lots. Yes,
Eckert's. I actually got these from the Eckert's can outside.
I'm surprised I'm not sitting on a fucking flamingo right now. It's a giant inflatable flamingo ring.
Exactly.
So he comes on, and so I feel underprepared because this is not an area that I'm well versed in, and so I asked another guy who had been on the podcast before, who was a critic of these city coins, and I said, "Listen, would you come on just so we can have a conversation about this amongst better informed people, other than me asking stupid questions?"
Which I commend you for.
Thanks.
Because a lot of people wouldn't do that, especially in Miami, have that.
Well, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about that. And more importantly, I didn't want this guy to talk circles around me with jargon. And so this other guy says to me, he goes, so I think I have the text messages still. He says, you'll have no trouble keeping up with him. And I'm like, well, but
Weird.
I don't know the lingo.
The ecosystem.
Yeah, and there's a whole... Listen, when you're starting a cult, one of the first things you want to do is you create your own language, your own terminology, so that people who are on the inside are the only people, wink, 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 that understand it.
And it creates a FOMO for those on the outside, and hopefully attracts them to...
Yeah, like it's not a small, it's a tall, Brittany.
Oh.
It's like you even start to reverse the meanings of words as well, so that like language doesn't matter, definitions, measurements don't matter, So I'm like, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to keep up. So this guy says you'll have no trouble keeping up. So I get them all on the show. It's me and Dan Lebitard and our producer Roy Bellamy, and then these two guys. One, I'm not even a skeptic, a critic of City Coins, and one like a co-founder of the City Coins Miami Coin community.
So you have both sides of this.
Both sides, right.
Yeah.
So the guy was right. I had no trouble keeping up. Here's the guy, like these NFT bros, who is supposed to be here selling us into this thing, could not
sell it.
Could not do it. I'm like, listen, I will buy one of these things right now.
Yeah.
So it's only like, several fractions of a penny. I'll buy.
Yeah.
I'll buy.
Yeah.
Just convince me.
Yeah.
Absolutely unable.
Yeah.
No utility, no value, no usage. No, I mean, like, it was like, no, trust me, buy these magic beans. Buy these
why?
imaginary
And all
coins.
it took was you asking one follow-up question, why?
I'm in.
And that was it.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt too with my friend with this as well. She would have to consistently keep explaining it to me over and over again. And then all of a sudden one day I go, am I stupid? Because I feel like it shouldn't take this many explanations.
If I recall, I think you offered to like buy me $5,000 worth or something of the coin. And I'm like, why?
But why?
Like what am I going to do with it?
Yeah.
You give it to me. What am I going to do with it? And
Yeah.
he's like, well, because it benefits a percentage of the money goes to the city. I was like, well, if I want to donate money to the city,
I could just donate my own money to the city.
to the city.
Right.
I don't need to get a percentage of this. It's like, yeah, but it's generating revenue for the city. I said, well, so could drug sales, but we're not doing that either. I'm
Right.
saying, what is legitimate about this? What is practical about this? What is the value of this?
How does it make my life easier? How is it more?
Could not answer the question.
Well, you said, I find it interesting that Bitcoin also had such a renaissance in a place like Miami. Like how you were saying, like it's, Miami is where kind of morals don't matter. And it's one thing I've always respected about you is, and your career is how you're willing to ask questions and call things out. And what makes you such a gem for Miami specifically is there isn't enough of that. That's how I feel.
Well, listen, but I'm much less concerned about morality,
Right.
than I am about ethics.
Okay.
Like, I mean, I don't really like your morals or whatever. As long as you're not harming other people, like
Right.
I don't really give a shit what your morals are per
Right.
se. But your ethics, your values in the public sphere, particularly when you are, an elected official, when you are a government official, a public official. Like, again, I don't care what your morals are, but like when you go to work and when you're supposed to be working to do the most good for the most people, and instead you go to work to do the most good for me, or the most good for my cronies, or the most good for the smallest number of people, then I have an issue.
Right.
Morals, I mean, it's Miami. Like, what do we, like,
yeah.
so
That's true.
We don't do immoral shit.
People can't even spell morals down here. Right, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, like, that's not as much my concern. I'm not the morality police.
Right.
It's
just ethics, which is rooted in honesty and integrity.
Yeah, and well, integrity when you're dealing in the, like, again, people in their private lives and people, like, whatever, like, do your thing. I don't give a shit. But then when people start to impose their morals on other people,
that's
in
also
their
not
private lives, and in their medicine, and in their and they start fucking with people's health and people's safety, and that is no longer just your kind of private morals or value,
because you're having an impact on other people.
Of course, absolutely.
Right. It's what I always say, the difference between self-centered and selfish is, in my head, is self-centered could mean you're just focused on your own needs and desires and goals and morals and what have you. And maybe it could come off to some people as you being a little inconsiderate, or you could be more generous, but really you're just centered on yourself. You're focused on yourself. For me, the definition of selfish is people who move and make choices willingly knowing it is going to be at the expense of other people.
As a famous jurist once said, like, your right to swing your arms around ends where my nose begins.
Correct.
Like, as soon as you start to, oh, look, this is me, I'm free, I have freedom. It's like the second you're swatting yourself into someone else's space
that's where the line
body,
is.
that's where the line is. Then you have to start, then it becomes a matter of public interest, and it becomes a matter of public good, and then it becomes a matter of determining how to do the most good for the most people.
And that is also, in its simplest form, too, consideration and understanding that we're not the only people on this planet, and there are other people
Brittany,
and interests.
They don't call it our Amy.
Yeah.
Or your Amy.
It's my
fucking Amy.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true.
That's how we drive, isn't it?
Oh, it's how we drive. It's how we. I think there's a direct correlation between how you drive and how you are as a person.
Yeah, I think. By the way, I think turn signals are a measure of your humanity, are a measure of your character.
Yeah,
I think use of turn signals is a question of character.
Use of horn as well too. Unnecessarily.
Well, I'm a little more liberal about the use. I'm a little about the use of the.
I always say the horns are. I'm like, the cars are flirting. That's what's happening. They're talking chisme.
Or my personal favorite, just the lean. It's like, guys, I know the light screen, but physics dictates that two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. If I could drive, believe me, I would fucking drive.
And people in Miami look at you and go, "What is physics?"
Yes.
What is
physics?
that?
What is science?
What is science?
What is truth?
It is that exact. As you know, I am bravely making a documentary about the Miami comedy scene, and it's
a short film.
It's a short film. It's a short film.
No,
it's a docuseries.
I'm kidding. No, Miami has had a burgeoning. I mean, it's taken a while.
Yeah.
And there have been some pioneers who have. I mean, most of them. Let's be honest. The most successful ones have left.
In terms of comedians,
Miami at the beginning. Yeah. I think at the beginning of what in the nascency of the Miami comedy scene, but now it feels like there at least is one. And I think the biggest challenge has been is that and I don't know that this is that different from other artistic communities, but I feel that most of you just hate each other, so it becomes harder to create community when everybody just fucking hates each other.
Oh well, a wise man named Billy Corben just said it's called not our Ammy, it's called my fucking Ammy, and it's my fucking Ammy, and I want all of it for me. And it's interesting. We're still in production with this. We just did a set of interviews yesterday, and a comedian friend of mine, Carlos Hernandez, who works for Only in Dade. I have thoughts on Only in Dade, which is, they know my thoughts. I've said my thoughts directly to them, but he had brought that up as well too, that, I felt a camaraderie when I first relocated from New York down here, but I also felt a camaraderie with a very select number of comedians who we thought similarly and we wanted to execute the game similarly and we wrote similarly. But he had pointed out that there is a lack of community in the Miami comedy scene, and how if you look at LA and New York, they're all collaborating. They run shows together. They tour together. They do sketches together, podcasts together. And he was like, it's very singular down here. It's very I'm in my lane, and my lane can only be the lane, and I won't use my turn signals in said lane. And it's just, and I said, yeah, it is. It's
a metaphor.
And it doesn't need to be that way, because you're not in a cutthroat comedy scene like in New York. You're in something that we all could be building together, but somehow we're, and if you have any kind of success in the comedy scene down here, unfortunately, you become a target for other people who aren't willing to work as hard as you are, or travel, or right outside of their comfort zone. But then when you get things they're not getting, you're a target.
Miami is a shared experience.
Yeah.
And we're all, to extend your metaphor of the driving, we're all trying to get somewhere, and where you're trying to go, or where I'm trying to go, is not any more important than where you're trying to go.
Right.
So I think if we're respectful to each other and we treat each other, better, we'll all actually, to use a climate change metaphor, the rising tide will raise all ships.
Yeah.
And as we know, when Miami has a reputation for corruption and dysfunction and nonstop construction, that is exported, and that reflects on all of us. But if Miami has a reputation for, say, there's a comedy community, and there's really talented people, and they all kind of support each other and help elevate each other, that obviously would be better for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to create community in such a fragmented, I use that Game of Thrones kind of comparison, and that's what it is. It's fiefdoms, and it's you look at Dade, it's 34 separate municipalities incorporated, everybody's kind of looking to create their own, they become grifts, unfortunately, and really corrupt little towns and villages and cities, but the creative communities and businesses and things become a microcosm of that as well. And I wish that it was, and through the years, we've always done our own thing with filmmaking. And for a while, there was no real documentary filmmaking community when we started, 20. Well, I mean, we really started in middle school. It's 30 years ago. But there was no doc making or nonfiction filmmaking community. And slowly that's evolved. And I've made a concerted effort through the years to try to get more involved in that, because we had to create our own thing from nothing.
Yeah.
And so when you do that, when you're inventing your own, vertical or your own sort of silo, it's like you wind up in there. If it works, if you're lucky enough to wind up with one, you wind up, and then now like getting involved with Filmgate, for example, a nonprofit filmmaking organization, and going out to film festivals like all over the place in Key West or the Miami Film Festival. We became increasingly more involved in what you could call community. But for a while, when we were starting out in the 90s, it was not a community. It was like all the big studio movies coming in from out of town and using us like a location.
Yeah.
What Miami's the mistress, not the marriage.
Yeah.
People just sort of it's all
in more ways than one.
Yeah, transient. Like we care about like back when there was a film incentive at the state. This is very telling. The first question they asked you on the survey was, how many hotel nights did you generate? And I'm like, well, if we live here,
why
none?
Right.
If we're trying to create indigenous industry, and we pay rent here, and we put all our money in local banks, and we pay
we are
in
residents
local
of
restaurants,
this place.
and we live here, and so all of our money stays here.
But in terms of contributing to Miami tourism, no, because we live here.
Well, we could argue our projects have contributed to Miami tourism in that, the intangible of the raised profile and reputation of a community. I mean, a lot of people told me that they went to the University of Miami, whether they're athletes or not, because they saw our ESPN 30 for 30s, the U or the U Part and or the U Part 2. And I always say to them, that's amazingly stupid that you would make such an important life decision based on a documentary about a football program from 30 years ago. But welcome to Miami.
Glad you're here.
Good luck. And no, but I
don't buy Brave coin.
But what I'm saying is that people come and they want to drive around to places where Griselda Blanco and her hitmen allegedly committed murders because they watched like the Cocaine Cowboys documentary. So in an odd way, we've contributed to tourism, but we have not contributed directly to hotel nights, and that became
a huge issue.
Became problematic. But just that attitude, like even locals and the government treating this as a hustle or a transient population, or just trading on that becomes. I don't know. Psychologically, it's like we then don't necessarily care about our roots and care about our history. And Miami's one of the youngest
city.
Yeah, well, one of the youngest cities in the country. So we are perpetually America's like
hot younger sister
or belligerent teenager or like adolescent, just stubborn adolescent. And so we want the new shit, knock down the old shit and build the new shit. And there's just. I was hoping that when I started to see this generation, I remember it circa MySpace, to use social media platforms as a measurement of era or time. But I seeing people's, remember at the top of your MySpace profile, you can have like a little quote, like my personal sort of credo.
And a song and a top 8 and
So I remember starting to see 305 Till I Die.
Yes.
Born and raised in the county of Dade. And I started to maybe we're seeing now a generation of, second generation Miamians and Haitian immigrants and Cuban migrants who are coming here and saying now I was born here. My parents came from wherever,
but I have
elsewhere.
A sense of pride of this place.
In where I was, and I want to contribute, and I want to maybe leave behind a better Miami or a better Florida than the one I was born in. And I haven't really seen that spirit quite gel. It has in pockets.
Yeah.
There are wonderful communities and organizations and groups and things, but by and large, it troubles me. The in Miami of it all
is troubling. Yeah.
Well, it's disappointing. Because you want to build a better community, and you want to have better schools, and you want to have better parks, and you want to have better things that we can all kind of share. And I mean, let's be honest. If I wasn't here today, I would just be home with my family, and that silo doesn't really create interaction and community.
Sure.
But we all got kind of, and then all of these trends socially and economically were all exacerbated by the pandemic.
Right.
Like everything, everywhere the housing market was going, and homelessness was going, and socialization was going, and social media was going, and cryptocurrency was going, everything, and inflation was going. It all just accelerated during the pandemic. And you're just like, oh no, this didn't happen because of the pandemic. The pandemic just amplified and accelerated all these mostly negative trends.
Yeah.
And then everybody started feeling like, and then we ate our feelings.
And then that's how where we are today. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's why we're on fucking inflatable couches
Exactly.
right now in some warehouse in Broward or wherever the
Had
fuck
I done
we
Bitcoin
are.
instead of Bravecoin, we would be on regular couches, obviously.
Damn right.
I know.
I mean, and on my way here, bumper to bumper traffic for miles southbound while I was coming northbound, because between Sterling and Sheridan exits on I-95, there was a crane lifting a boat up off the highway.
Mm-hmm. Only in Miami, because Miami. Yeah. So much I feel what you feel about Miami, and that not enough. There's a small percentage of us that care about investing in the city and the community and building things. No?
I think a lot of people care, and a lot of people don't necessarily know what to do about it. Or they're afraid to do anything about it. I don't blame them for that. A lot of people are afraid of their government. They don't feel comfortable speaking truth to power, and therefore having their voices be heard and making the community better, because they're afraid of retaliation or what have you, which is like a vacuum that I've tried to step in for people, because I wake up every morning to just an inbox. When I say inbox, I mean email, DMs on multiple platforms. So text messages to my various numbers and my emails, and it's just an inbox full of injustice and just people who are experiencing everything from sort of like minor inconveniences with getting the attention of their government to clean the fucking streets, or to get a permit to build a fence, or to get their business open, all the way to people who are unjustly arrested or injured by public officials or law enforcement. And it's like, and like they feel like I'm
their
the only
savior
person that they can
come
turn
about
to,
things,
which is fucking petrifying. And it's extremely stressful, and it keeps me awake at night, such that I don't even have to wake up to my inbox full of injustice, because I'm already fucking awake.
I just reach another level of consciousness.
So and there's so much of this, and people don't feel empowered to address this on their own, because they feel like either nothing will happen or they'll just be victimized even worse. And I just and it stresses me out.
People feel powerless about their own city here. In Miami.
But every single one of those people want it to be better, not just for them, but for
other people.
Everyone who has to deal with the same bullshit, because they are not alone. I mean, when I go and I criticize elected officials and high-ranking, well-compensated, appointed officials in local governments, a lot of their victims are not just the residents and the taxpayers, but like the city workers and the municipal workers who are held hostage in these little mafias of local, in these racketeering organizations masquerading as local governments. And they're there wanting to do the work of the people and wanting to serve their citizens and the taxpayers who pay their salaries.
The intent is there.
Right, but like they're being held hostage by these gangsters who have titles like city commissioner, mayor, city manager, city attorney, and there's nothing they can do, because these are people who might have 10, 15, 20, 25, they have decades of their lives invested in this work, such that they want to retire, and they have benefits that they don't want to walk away from, understandably so. They've put in the time. They want to get the upside in the end, and they don't want to jeopardize their standing or feeding their families or paying their exorbitant rents or in this town, insurance in this town. So like they suffer from stress and anxiety, and many of them clinical depression. And they're going through a lot of the same shit working for the city. So it's just like, and those people are being held hostage. It's just but all of those people want to do better. They want the community to be better. They just are either scared or don't know
how to get past this hurdle.
Absolutely.
How to be seen and heard.
And this hurdle is seemingly insurmountable because of just the corruption is
it runs too deep.
It runs too deep, and it's debilitating. It is not a victimless crime. There are a lot of people who suffer as a result, and every single one of us pays a corruption tax, and that is manifested in just countless ways, and because we have to pay for this corruption, whether it's legal fees to defend it, whether it's in increased taxes to cover services that can't be covered because they're stealing the other money from us.
The money that should have been meant for that.
Yeah, like literally when you hear someone comes up to me and says like, I'm trying to get the trash cleaned up off the streets of Little Havana because there's just piles of fucking trash in the street. Basic functions of a municipal government.
Yeah.
Basic shit.
Yeah.
And she said when I go to City Hall, they're like, well, we can't afford a street sweeping truck because that's like $20,000. And then I go to a court hearing for a corrupt city commissioner who has an army of attorneys who make upwards of $800+ an hour. And I'm like, oh, this one hearing just cost $20,000.
Right. So it's like,
and it benefits nobody in the city.
Right.
Except for this one corrupt commissioner, but has not served any of the constituents. It's not served any. And that's the thing too, is that like City of Miami in particular, which has a population of nearly 500,000, has only 5 votes on the commission. I believe nationwide of major cities anyway, that is the least represented and franchised population in the entire country.
Yeah. So then that explains the disconnect.
Yeah, well,
between
you
what
go to
the
Miami
city
Beach,
needs.
and there's at least Miami Beach has less than 100,000 people in the city, and there's like 7 votes on that commission.
Yeah.
So you have like, it's like, wait a second, they have 1/5 of the population, and they have like
way
2 more like
representation.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So like, but that's also by design, and there's a reason why government meetings are held at 9 a.m. on a weekday. It's to discourage you
from going,
from participating in your own
and
government,
from voicing and fighting back.
Absolutely, because who the fuck can go to these meetings at 9 a.m. on a weekday when you have 3, 4, 5 jobs in Miami just to make ends meet, just to sustain life, and education and transportation and home and your household and food, and so that's why like when I have the time to do that, I feel
compelled to do that.
I feel compelled to do it because like they're, and amplifying voices of people who feel that they cannot participate in their own government, or they're scared to participate in their own government. I think that's the real part, is that, we are not supposed to be afraid of our government. Our government is supposed to be afraid of us.
Yeah.
And that is in the context of the risk of being voted out of office. And that's the thing too, is that we're really bad at democracy.
Oh, very much
here,
so.
Down here too.
It's non-existent.
We don't recycle our trash. We re-elect it.
Exactly.
Kind of like you with shirts.
Yeah, that's true. I actually, for the next episode, I'm just turning this inside out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm just,
I'm
I'll be
excited.
gay, probably.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah.
We'll go to the Lighthouse Point Goodwill later and buy you a new wardrobe.
Please.
Yeah.
Please. I have a brand. Okay.
It is Broward Goodwill. That is your.
In my later years, now that I'm an old lady at 33, it's Broward Goodwill.
You were a fucking general in the Salvation Army. You are.
Exactly.
I mean, holy shit.
When I was growing up, it was a Kendall Rainbow, but now it's a Broward Goodwill. That's what it is. But it's always going to be inside me. This was.
Oh, but you have to go to OnlyFans to see that.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's hard to afford a life in Miami. I have one last question for you, and it's general. It's beyond Miami, but I see what your line of work is and mine. Yes, it's creative and it's in the entertainment industry, but I think the two of us are both truth tellers, just through a different medium. And I don't think you become a good comedian unless you ruffle feathers when it's attached to, you're punching up and there's some good, legitimate comedic value.
Yeah, it's funny. Sure.
It's funny, and nobody can deny that you're telling the truth, essentially. And that's what makes a good joke, and that's what makes a good documentary. What advice do you have for truth tellers, or, what, especially if they're feeling discouraged in their art or discouraged in the response when they tell the truth? I'm sure you've experienced that. Maybe it's at points in your career.
And how many times a day?
How many times a day?
That?
Yeah. Because there aren't enough. There's a lot of comedians, I feel, but not a lot of truth tellers that are comedians.
I'm a big fan of comedy, particularly stand-up comedy. I don't, since the pandemic, I'm slowly sort of going to more live comedy. I
can't believe you already know. How do you know that all of us hate each other in the Miami comedy scene?
Because you're all so fucking subtle about it, Brittany. I mean, Jesus. So fucking obvious. But like,
it's not like it's not on everyone's Instagram all the time.
yeah. Also, if I was gonna flip a coin and go 50-50 on making that prediction, that would have been the safe bet there.
I'm sure they're not a tight knit family. Well, not all of us, but yes.
But so I want to say part of the reason why I think like outside of like, you know, the military or law enforcement or window washers who it's a very dangerous profession.
Yeah.
Because of the bravery required, because of if you're good at it, the truth telling required, and the strength to kind of get up there and not only tell the truth, but to get up there and fucking fail. And that was why when I was a child actor and then when we became filmmakers, and like obviously you're going to go out on infinitely more auditions than you will book.
Right.
And we will go out there and pitch many more documentaries than we will sell or be able to make. And so
it's a long process. You have to commit your life's work to. It's failure.
It's failure. And you have to, I think process is a great word. Like you have to embrace the process. You have to be like, oh, auditioning is part of the process. Not just getting the job, but this is part of the exercise.
Bombing.
Yeah, bombing is
part of the process.
Part of the process.
Yeah.
Failing is part of the process. Pitching a doc and not selling it is part of the process. It's what do you learn from that? How do you adjust to that or for that? And also, like, I still enjoyed the pitch. Like, I enjoyed meeting the people, and I enjoyed the questions that they asked, and I enjoyed...
I said I loved stand-up because it was something I was okay. I still have a lot of fun failing at it.
Yeah.
It was something I want to fail at again.
I've seen Gilbert Gottfried bomb.
Yeah.
I've seen George Carlin
bomb. You told me that story.
Yeah. So when you look at these legends and people who I think are some of the funniest people who ever lived, and you watch them in a room full of people honing a craft at a point in their career where they are already legends, where it is already known and
the stakes are higher for you to bomb at that point in your career.
I mean, we were some gorgeous, like one of those classic like casino like what do you call those rooms? Those like cabaret style fucking badass
speakeasy.
rooms. It's like the big showroom.
Yeah.
But that's not like in an auditorium style, but it's got the tables and it's like a classic Vegas showroom.
Yeah.
And bombing. And I'm the only person in this giant sold out room in Las Vegas, George Carlin, on the marquee outside of the hotel, bombing.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is
amazing. Yeah.
Like this is like and just like the admiration and this guy at this stage in his career, like this is 2000. Yeah, I think it was the year 2000. Like at that stage, he's already legend.
Yeah,
he's already one of the funniest men ever.
He could not work again for the rest of his life.
One of the greatest comedy writers of all time. Some of the greatest material ever written by a comedian. And here he is in this room, rehearsing material that would wind up on his next album, on his next HBO special.
But being willing and comfortable having it completely fail.
Completely.
Knowing that it's never going to get to special until it fails a couple hundred times. Yeah.
And I don't know also, talking about the fucking confidence, I don't think he changed it very much. When I saw it on HBO, I was like, this is the same bit.
Yeah.
And he was just, and it like didn't matter that one night in Las Vegas. It was like he just did it. And obviously that audience was not necessarily indicative
a fan of it.
Of that. But so he was pacing the stage, and we had gotten my grandpa used to work in Vegas, and he knew a bunch of high rollers and gamblers. So I got into town with my girlfriend at the time. We're driving from the cab from McLaren and I saw George Carlin on the marquee, and I was like, that was not on the agenda.
But we're doing it.
I was like, oh my God, we have to go see George Carlin.
Yeah.
And so I called my grandpa. I'm like, you know anybody get us tickets? So not only did we get tickets, we were in the front. When I say the front, I mean, it was actually terrible seats.
Yeah.
We were next to the stage, like the wall that is the stage. So I had to look up, to see the top.
Him. Yeah.
And so we're sitting against the stage, and I remember he was doing this bit. It was like the God-son Joe Pesci bit. And about religion. And he pacing back and forth on the stage. And I'm just I'm dying. I'm laughing, and I'm just I'm in my own world, loving,
envisioning it.
Yeah, loving this George Carlin bit that I'm hearing for the first time ever, and
It's getting nothing.
And then I realize, like, you sort of imagine this in the sound mix. My ears go from like hearing myself laughing in my head to realizing I'm the only person laughing in this entire fucking sold out room, and so I then turn. So now imagine the shot. Like, we're now panning from me looking up at Carlin on the stage. We're panning around this room
to
where
blank
a bunch
faces.
Of staring up at George Carlin on the stage, just black. And then I turn back around and look up, and there is George Carlin, like almost inches away, but really feet away. It felt like inches because he is at the edge of the stage, leaning down at me.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Thank you, sir," and then keeps walking and continuing, because I was the only person
getting it, laughing, reacting.
And so he walked over to me at the edge of the stage to personally thank me for being the only person who got
the joke. Who got the joke? Yeah. This is iconic.
I watched Hannibal Buress bomb at Shirley's in Gramps in Wynwood.
Yeah.
He was doing this bit. I'd never heard any about Bill Cosby.
Okay. Hot topic. Yeah.
This is a couple months before, I think, the Philly gig where somebody filmed it with their cell phone and it went viral. So we're in Wynwood when I'm watching this bit, and Adam Gersten and I, my buddy from high school, from New World School of the Arts in downtown Miami, and the owner of Gramps, we're sitting in this background, and we are the only two people laughing.
Yeah.
But laughing in this escándalo, kind of like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe he's fucking
saying this,
doing this
and talking about
and
this.
And it's amazing. And it's all true.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was basically it was documentary filmmaking through comedy. He's like, do you all know the history of Bill Cosby? And he's like, let me tell you about it.
Yeah.
And it was
it's
incredible.
like the room probably turned off to it immediately because they heard Bill Cosby, and it's whether you're able to. I always say this about people. A lot of people think they're comedy fans and they're not. And I'm like, it's about being willing to hear things out, whether you agree or disagree or you're comfortable.
But I think also because we knew that it was true, it meant more to us.
Yeah.
That someone had the guts to
even talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let alone in literally mixed company.
Yeah.
And so later, me, Adam, and Hannibal are at the bar, and now I'm the drunk guy after the comedy show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, with the unsolicited advice, and I'm like, Hannibal.
Keep that back.
I was like, let me tell you something. Don't be discouraged. Like Hannibal Buress would get discouraged, by one audience of assholes in Miami and some, basement
Steve
room.
Martin says in his book, Born Standing Up, he said that a Friday late show, obviously not in Miami, almost caused him to quit comedy. Yeah. And there have been
Was it not in Miami though? He worked Coconut Grove a lot. Steve Martin.
It could have been. I don't believe it was.
Okay.
But there have been many nights in Miami where my material has fallen flat. Material that otherwise works anywhere else. I thought I maybe can't do this anymore.
I said the dumbest thing to Hannibal, but I felt it. I want you in that moment.
So true to you.
It was the tequila talking me, but I said, Hannibal, that Bill Cosby bit is so important. That's what I I'm like, it's so important. You don't be discouraged. You have to keep doing. You have to keep doing that bit. It's so important.
And then somebody pulls you
and
aside,
he's like,
and they're
Bill,
like, Billy,
he's like, Billy, get the fuck away from me.
Or they're like, Billy, that's not Hannibal. That's just a black eye at Gramps.
Adam is like, Billy. I'm like, Hannibal. He's like, Billy. I'm like, listen to me, Hannibal. He's like, Billy. I'm like, 1 second, Adam. I'm talking to Hannibal. Hannibal. Billy. What is it, Adam? That's not Hannibal. Okay, it's like, but I'll never.
And then you see Billy Corben leave Gramps going, we up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But first of all, by the way, it's impossible to know if Hannibal is being dismissive because he always
very
looks like
unemotive.
that.
I worked with him.
Yeah. It's like he's like the best poker face like ever. You don't want to play poker with Hannibal Buress.
I interviewed him at Bitcoin Festival. Yeah. He was one of the performers, and I was
great lineup. You're right. Holy shit.
It was incredible. Him, Jay Farrow,
Jesus.
Donnell Rawlings, Michael Rappaport, a great
amazing.
lineup. I was a young comic and nervous, but it was a great day. And yeah,
And
I
the
couldn't
bull
tell-
was there.
And
The
exactly,
crypto bull was
exactly. So
unbelievable.
that made me even more nervous. And
It's a steer, by the way.
what?
It's not a crypto bull. It has no balls. It's a steer.
Oh,
it's
that's
a crypto
incredible.
steer. It's
That's
not.
so. Just add that on. That's just the cherry on top to how they don't even know what the fuck they're doing. And that's And I couldn't tell if he liked me or not. But then I was like, oh, this is just him and how he is.
But in that moment, he and I are okay.
Yeah.
But in that moment, he hated me. I was pretty sure.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure of it.
Well,
This,
comedians
like,
just hate
you know.
socializing before or after.
Yeah.
But to your point, and just to put a button on this, it's like I'm reaching a point now with my comedy where I write about what I want. And while I will be a good comedian in the sense that I'll read a room, I'm not going to compromise who I am. And I'm starting to create free of not only criticism, but reaction, approval. And I think, I don't know, I always tell comedians when they're just starting out, I say this may be bold and it might be terrible advice, but I would encourage you to create like that now. Don't wait until later on in your career. I'm like, be who you are. Terrible advice, because we get that all the time. Just be you, just be yourself. But I'm like, the earlier you can get comfortable making things like a movie or your comedy that you like and that you respond to and that's true to you, for like freeing yourself of audience approval, I think the better an artist you become and you speed the process up for yourself.
Yeah, so to coalesce this into advice, because that was the question you asked like a half hour ago. I'm sorry. But like, I feel like you just
I
said,
needed to hear that. I tricked you into telling me that George Carlin story again.
I feel like the Hannibal Buress story is a little more on point.
Yeah.
So you can feel free to edit.
Billy was
the
actually
George
talking
Carlin
to
story
George
out.
Carlin at Gramps.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but I mean, the Hannibal
hologram.
Buress is a little more on point just in terms of like truth. And although, listen, George Carlin was certainly speaking his truth about his skepticism about organized religion, and which he always has his whole career. And so, but I would say, and I'm going to turn this because it's me into a more of a glass half empty sort of piece of advice, which is that like
I only see things as glass
if you don't have the stomach for failure, then don't pursue
anything
art.
creative.
Yeah,
or,
like just don't. Like so that's it's more because I'm always trying to discourage people from, because you're going to struggle
no matter
mostly.
what. Right.
Everybody is mostly going to struggle, and you're mostly not going to make a living at it. Like I remain ever cognizant how lucky I am, and I remain grateful that I make a living doing something I love in the 21st century in America.
I feel the same way.
And I don't know how much longer that's going to last, but for the moment, I'm very, very happy and relieved about it. But that's what I would say. I would say, like, if you don't have the stomach to be called a piece of shit, if you don't have the stomach to be booed at, if you don't have the stomach to be
get
told
canceled,
you suck, that you're a failure, that you're never going to amount to anything, if you don't have the stomach for that, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, that's all.
And that's the most important question, more than anything, more than money or more than anything else, I think. It's, are you willing to face that all the time, literally?
And I love, and it's trite to say, but like, I don't, people say like, oh, I don't read my reviews. I don't read reviews of my work. I read
all of them,
or all the ones I can find anywhere that are shared with me. And I read the bad ones twice, because if they're well written and they're constructive, I learn more from the bad reviews than I learn from the good reviews. That doesn't necessarily mean I'll change anything in the future, but at least I may learn.
You'll put that information
something.
in your back pocket. You'll remember it.
Absolutely.
For another project.
And so it's not just like, I'm not just gonna be like, be free to fail, gang. Like, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to be free to. You're gonna fucking fail.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no doubt about it. So, but if you can't deal with that in a constructive way, and also, by the way, you're not necessarily going to learn something from all of your failures.
No,
sometimes you'll learn nothing
at all. Sometimes you just stand up in Broward County and you're like, I failed, and it's okay.
You know what I learned? I learned that these people don't like that material or don't like the way I presented, that material, but that teaches me nothing about what I will do for the next time.
And you can also technically consider something a failure, but you execute. You're comfortable with how you executed.
Yeah,
it.
I did the best I could.
I did the best I could.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change how I told those jokes or made that project.
And it tanked.
Right. And I think that's something too for artists. It's just to remember that you also can't control how everything is received. You can control how you make it and how you internalize things, but you can release something that everybody around you says is brilliant and great, and the masses may not think that. So it's almost freeing that way to move and create that way.
I just don't like to speak in fortune cookie platitudes or daily affirmation. That's the thing too, is that you're gonna learn more from your failures. Yes, okay, but you're not always gonna learn from your failures. It's just important to just know. Keep on failing, and if you can't deal with that financially, emotionally,
mentally,
just don't do it, because there's going to be a whole lot more failing creatively.
Should I quit comedy?
So is this what it's come to? I mean,
yeah.
The short answer is yes. I mean, but by the way, that would be my answer to anyone who asked me that question.
Yeah.
Anybody who says, should I quit?
And that's the best advice ever.
Anybody who says to me should what's your advice to an up and coming documentary filmmaker? I'm like, don't.
You actually said that to me when we did.
Don't.
I said, I'm making this Miami comedy docuseries, short film, God knows what, a marathon project. And I said, what should we do over tequila drinks? You said, I wouldn't make it.
It's I know nothing about you. Yeah. I don't know what your filmmaking capabilities, your talents are. I just know that you're better off just not even endeavoring to do this.
Stick to porn, Brittany.
Yeah, that is exactly what I said.
Well,
that is a direct quote.
It's more lucrative.
Yeah, and that is why we are on these couches.
Exactly.
Which incidentally, it is not lost on me. It is not lost on me that they're basically little open air bounce houses as well. Oh, this is what we call a callback in comedy, kids. They're fucking bounce houses.
I'm actually quitting.
Is what they are. That's it. Yeah, unfortunately, we have these stands, so she can't even drop the mic.
I can't.
But it's over.
I can't drop the Starbucks.
It's a tall, Brittany.
It's taller than me.
You are a tall. You're not a small. You are a tall, Brittany. That's what you are in my cult.
You are an Ariana Grande.
My barista cult.
You are a venti.
I'm embarrassed for laughing at the Ariana Grande Starbucks
You know
joke.
what? We all have to. This is why I'm quitting comedy. That I'm a hack. That's it.
Can you give them that name at Starbucks so that when you get their drink, it says Ariana Grande latte?
My first job was at the Starbucks.
Your cameraman was like, oh, he's going to stop being funny now. I'm going to stop rolling on my comedy documentary footage because he's going to make a really dumb fucking Florida dad joke right now. He's like, cut.
He's like, cut.
Right before the punchline. He's like, I know this is going nowhere and not quickly.
Or he's like, if Brittany quit comedy, I'm out. That's it. This project's done. But my first job was at the Starbucks at the Barnes & Noble on Kendall Drive.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
I know that Starbucks.
Yeah.
I love that Barnes, the 2-story Barnes & Noble.
I used
Gorgeous.
to love it. Now I can't walk in without getting the mouth sweats. But
I'm sorry, what are the mouth sweats?
It's when you gag a little bit, like it was a bad experience. Okay. But I used to make jokes like that all the time about all of the drinks, and it was crazy. And it was you shouldn't eat at that Starbucks. I should say that they don't care about anything. I saw pastries hit the ground, they put them back in.
I would sooner eat at the Best Buy next door, but I would definitely eat at the Latin House Grill, which is now where the old diner is.
Oh yeah,
in that plaza
that diner
where the movie theater.
Changed names and ownership 13 times.
But now it's still the diner building, but it's a Latin House Grill, and it's fan-fucking-tastic.
Okay.
I don't know if Gatsby's is still in there, but you know that plaza with the movie theater.
I need to go recreate some memories there, because the first time I got finger blasted was on a date at that diner.
On this very couch.
On this couch. And he took me to a bounce house after.
I'm sorry, can we talk to your co-partner as you introduce me to him for just a moment? How great of an ending to this Miami comedy documentary would it be if Brittany quits comedy? Can we just talk about how fucking fantastic? Like, you will have documented her whole downfall.
And how Miami led me there.
Yeah, it's like this whole rise and fall. It's this whole Tony Montana arc, right? Of comedy, just like rise and fall. Boom. It's just like she's just gonna be right with a fucking. Yeah, you're gonna be
walk in front of a bright line train.
You're gonna be on that mezzanine on the Barnes and Noble and Kendall with a machine gun, and then they're gonna fall right off the fucking balcony into the children's book section at the bottom there, and then it's gonna be the world is yours, Brittany. That's how it's. That's
we
how this
can't
movie's
release
gonna
this
end.
in the podcast because it'll be a spoiler alert for the end of the documentary.
This is it.
How'd you
This
know
is
that
it.
Izzy and I were
and just imagine this. Brittany is just gently jumping in a bounce house in that shirt. And just gently, and then you just drone out, and then just up into the sky.
And then just to have it be, and then
and then the Goodyear blimp, the world is yours, comes just floating right by.
And as I'm floating, I say,
drone.
"We up." That's what I say.
We up. Yes. And as you kind of superimpose the Brittany coin current value. As more zeros appear after the decimal point,
I try
and
to
then
upsell
fade
them
to
on
black.
I try to upsell on their Frappuccino from my high school days, and I'm like, "You can pay in Brave coin." Well, we finished the doc, Izzy. That's it. But that's it. Our work here is done. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
This was fun.
This
was a wild ride.
This
I
was
love
my
it.
big yikes moment.
Yeah.
This whole the last hour has been my big yikes moment.
That's it. Yeah.
That's
it. And honestly, my outfit is big yikes. So
Seriously, unless you're like Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School or something, or do like the triple Lindy now or something.
That Broward Goodwill, I said I need Rodney Dangerfield meets back.
Yeah. Fucking, you are the mayor of the Pompano Beach Goodwill. This is what you are in that shirt.
How does it feel to be in the presence of greatness, Billy?
I don't know. I'll let you know when I am. I love you. I love you. Thank you for inviting me.
I love you too. Thank you.
This was absolutely just an obligation for me to do. So, I mean, it's part of the podcast exchange program. You do you do mine. I'll do yours. Yeah. But that's also on OnlyFans only. You have to.
That's a fun category on OnlyFans, actually.
All right.
Yeah, just podcast swapping. That's it. Forget.
He gave up.
Who?
Your one-legged producer. He's leaving. He's leaving. He's like I stopped recording an hour ago. He's like.
I have to go back to the Eckert's container.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's my Carrot Express?
Thank you so much.
Of course.
This was so